Hello and welcome to my channel. If this is your first time here, my name is Millie and I love any makeup, especially shiny, shifting, sparkly eyeshadows. And today I'm going to be comparing all of my colorful highlighters. We're going to talk about some textures and we're going to talk about color, whether or not something is shifty, duochrome, or multichrome. And the reason I decided to do this video is because I have quite a few different kind of colorful iridescent type of highlighters. I'm only going to be doing highlighters in this video. I'm not going to include any iridescent eyeshadows. Of course, you can use those as highlighters, but we're just going to be talking about things that are marketed as highlighters, and usually those things are larger in size. So they're usually at least in a 36mm type of pan. And the other reason is that Oden's is coming out with a new collection and they include some colorful highlighters. They are launching this Friday, May 20th. So I wanted to get this video up before that so you can make the best decision in case you already have some of these. We have some Game Beauty highlighters as well. I do not have dedicated video on these, but I do have dedicated videos and face swatches on pretty much everything else. Definitely all the Kaleidos and definitely all the 3 multi-chrome highlighters from Kristen Cosmetics, as well as I'm pretty sure most of these kinds of shades from Beauty. Maybe not all of them, I don't remember, but I will link all corresponding videos down in the description box if you're interested. So let's get right into some swatch comparisons. So first up is Moon Talk from Oden's Eye, then Electric from Beauty. This is the Kaleidoscope Glow, and these two are the Diamond Transformers, I believe. This one is Azure Frost, and this one is a Dazzle Duchess, and these are split pans, so they have 2 different colors in here. And then this one is Dendro from Game Beauty. I would like to note that the only shifty duochrome, almost multichrome effect ones are these 3. Neither of these are marketed as duochromes or multichromes. So swatching Moon Talk first. So this one is very smooth. You can kind of see when my finger's running over it. It looks very smooth on my finger. Obviously, this is a heavier swatch just to really show you the texture. And I'm actually going to kind of blend it out a little bit, so that way you can really see just how it looks once it's actually spread out, because I think this is a little bit more realistic to how it would apply on the cheek versus like a swatch. So this one melts into the skin and looks very, very smooth. And I think that's something that's very different with the formula from Beauty, because this shade is Electric. Is just look at how much shinier this is. It almost is a little bit more like particles of sparkle, but they really smooth out. But you can see just how much shinier they are. But I think these 2 shades are pretty similar. It's really going to depend on what your preference is in highlighter. I don't mind something sparklier, so here's the 2 of them just on my finger, so you can kind of see also just how different they look on the finger. This one still has like a sheen to it. Let me just build it up a little bit more, but it is nowhere near the sparkly texture of this one. And then I'm dipping into the greenish side, which this one is a duochrome or multichrome shade, so this one I don't think it's going to really quite match up, and it is the same formula as the other shade. Well, I think this one's a little bit more sheer maybe. I think it's taking quite a bit to build up, but this one also does have a green color to it. And again, it's got all the sparkles and flecks throughout it. I feel like they're a little looser in this formulation versus on this one. And of course, the price is also going to be a factor. This is half of the Dazzle Duchess here. And again, super sparkly, just like the Kaleidoscope Glow version. But again, just maybe a little bit more particly. I don't think any of these really have like a base to them. And then lastly is the Game Beauty one. These are really, really hard pressed, which is something I immediately noticed just even rubbing my finger in it. They do hard pan and they're actually kind of hard to pick up. So I'm just going to put that down here. Texture wise on the skin, it's a bit more similar to the Kaleidos, but the color is definitely different. Let me actually do one like next to, so you can kind of see that a little bit better. But sheen wise, I think you could get the Game Beauty one to be even less sheeny. It's really not going to give you much sparkle or glow. It's just a little bit. It's just going to look really fun. Green cheek, you know, kind of thing. Next onto the yellow peachy gold colors. I'm going to show you in the pan as well in comparison to some of these other Oden's Eye. But you can even see the texture difference in these 2. Just see how really, really shiny this one is. And you can also see that it's just a little bit more almost like particly throughout versus this one looks pretty smooth. I would say this one is the least shiny out of all the Oden's Eye shades. This one is really just such a sheen if that. Like, it's very, very soft. If you prefer this kind of texture, personally, I think I'm going to opt for something a little bit shinier, or maybe more like layering something shinier over it. Next to that, I'm swatching Solar Sailor from Kaleidos, and this one is very, very gold, and definitely just a bit more shiny. Not like the shiniest or sparkliest, but it is a bit more shiny. And then actually right in between, I'm going to swatch Geo from Game Beauty. This one is actually definitely shinier. Again, really, really hard pressed and harder to pick up because of that. But this one is also kind of like an in-between. So I think this one is about the same shine as the Kaleidos highlighter, but it is more similar in tone to the Oden's Eye. And I forgot to mention, this is Warm Sunshine from Oden's Eye. Next, I'm taking Prophecy from Kaleidos, and this one amps it up a bit more, but it has that peachiness to it, and this is a multi-chrome, so it shifts to a green. So this one, I would say not even similar really, like no dupes for sure here at all. This one is very, very shiny, and this one does have somewhat of a base to it. You can really see how shiny it is on my finger. Let me just swatch the Oden's Eye one, so you can kind of see just totally different. This one is more like a satin, if that. And then lastly is Party Favor. This one is from Kristen Leigh Cosmetics, and this one is also a multi-chrome highlighter. And so this one has a little bit more of a similar vibe to Prophecy, also way shinier and definitely very, very flaky. Not as flaky as some of the other highlighters like this from Kristen Leigh, but you can see that it is just picking up a little bit chunky, but it does smooth out, and then I'm just kind of building it up. But even when you smooth it out, there's still going to be a couple of flecks which could just blow off or kind of brush off. So this way you can see the green shift that's happening in Prophecy. That is definitely not happening in the Oden's Eye shade or in the Kaleidos or in the Game Beauty. I wasn't filming this whole time, so I'm starting over, but I literally just talked through all of these. So first, swatching the Web of Destiny limited edition highlighter. This one is like a bit more putty-like. Really, none of these feel like this one. Just want to clarify that. And the Oden's Eye don't feel wet. This one definitely prone to a little bit of hard panning if you're really going in there with your finger. But it is really beautiful, really, really sparkly, a bit harder to pick up, but it does look like it has tons of flecks throughout it, but the flecks do smooth out. And then swatching Rose Sky, which is from the new formula next to that. And this one has almost like silver flecks throughout it. You can see it has a bit more of a base to it, so it definitely has like more of like a pinky base versus like a translucent base. And you will kind of see that when I swatch, compare it to this shade, Pink Star. I kind of did a really heavy swatch. Whoops, but you can see that there's a yellow base to this one, and it is just not as sparkly. It's a bit more smooth. I'm actually going to be kind of trying to zoom in a bit so you can really see just the particle sizes. Next, swatching Cupcake Crush over here, which is the candy coated formula, which I think is not as sparkly as these two formulas from Bitter Lace Beauty. And I would say this one is more close to this Oden's Eye shade, which I can't remember. But it has like a pinky base to it, but this one does do a little bit of shifty action, and the tone maybe is just a little bit different. It is also darker than this one, and it doesn't have the silver flecks throughout it. Next to that is Luster from the Kaleidoscope Glow. And this one is really smooth and really shiny, actually kind of similar to this one a bit, but this one has a yellow base to it. And Luster does look a bit more purpley straight on. Not all the new Oden's Eye are shifty. And then next to that, the sparkliest probably out of all of these, this is Princess Cut. This is the pink half. So I'm going to put that right here, and you can just see the difference. It is just so, so shiny. It is a little bit similar to this one, but it just feels like dry powder. But you can see it's got lots of particles throughout it that do smooth out, so it's not necessarily flaky. It just really creates this really beautiful, almost wet look to the cheeks. Like, I feel like some of these other shades are not gonna look wet, but because of this texture and the sparkle, I can definitely see like some sparkles that are a little like loose on top of my skin from my angle from this side. And then Comet Catcher from Kaleidos, and this one is super, super satin like, really similar to that Oden's Eye shade from the previous set. Just has color to it, but not much shine. Pyro from Game Beauty. This one is a little bit similar in tone to Pink Star, but I think Pink Star is a little bit more, has like a yellow base, while Pyro really doesn't. And Pyro is a little bit more satin-like, and this one is also pretty hard pressed, so it's kind of hard to really pick it up, especially with a brush. You will definitely need a denser brush with overall the Game Beauty formula. So let me just actually put on a little bit more, but that one is a little bit more shiny than the Comic Catcher. And then lastly, we have Gifted from Kaleidos, which you can see is literally like liquid metal. This one is a multi-chrome, so it does have a purpley shift, so I don't think this one's really like comparable, but I will throw it in here. Really beautiful smooth shine, somewhat similar I think to the Diamond Transformers, but not quite as particly. They do look just a little bit different. But this one is just so beautiful on the skin, melts into the skin, does give a wet look effect. Love that one. So here's all the shades together. Next up, onto the blues. Some of these are a little bit more purpley blue, but I'm just going to kind of lump them all together. I wanted to show you all of these compared to the Oden's eye shades, because these two I would say are pretty similar on the cheeks. Texture-wise, maybe just a little bit different, but this is a good kind of show on the textures and the formulations that are in here. These do look just a little bit chunky in the pan compared to Comic Catcher, for example, from Kaleidos. So just the way that they look in the pan, you've got a little bit more larger particle size, and I would say these are the Skywalker and Moon Cruiser are the kind of shiniest ones from the set in terms of like the particle size. They need a little bit of smoothing out. I definitely don't think that they're like everybody's cup of tea. And then Game Beauty is definitely looking a bit more subdued in the pans compared to the rest of these. And I do have Spring of Life from the previous limited edition collection from Oden's Eye, so I'm gonna put this one in here for reference. And again, that one has like a wet texture to it, so it is quite a bit different in formulation just alone based on that from these shades. I don't know how I'm gonna fit these. I think I'm gonna start putting them actually on my arm right here. So first up is the Marble shade, the limited edition shade. I did pick up a little bit too much, but this one feels really like almost like waxy wet. This one does have like a shift to it. This one obviously will depend on how you swirl it around, so you can kind of pick up more blue if you wanted to. This one has quite a bit of shine to it. Looks really wet, a bit harder to pick up. Need a denser brush or your finger. Next, swatching Azura Shine. So that's what that one looks like on the finger. And then next to that is a Lavender Dream, which is also new. And this one just looked, when I first saw this one, it just looks so shiny in the pan. So I was really curious to see how it compares to some of these other formulas. So just swatching these. And then that one, I think I need a little bit more. I feel like they're starting to feel like not completely wet. They do feel a little bit emollient almost, these two at least. So here's what those two look like. Swatched, I would say that they're really similar. I think this one's a little bit more purpley. It just has a little bit more of that base. I think this one looks more like a white base, but it could also be because of the tones, because this one is like a really vibrant, true, cool toned blue. Next up, Skywalker from Kaleidos and Moon Cruiser from Kaleidos, and this one is purpley. So not so much the blue. I think this one, if anything, maybe more similar to this shade from Oden's Eye versus the other shade. But I think these two, a bit similar. Skywalker's tone is really like a true blue. I think that they're different enough. Would you need both of them? I would say, like, if you have one, don't necessarily need the other. But if you were to choose in between them, it would depend on just how much of a blue cheek you would like. So I think Skywalker would give you more of a blue cheek. And it's swatching Cryo from Game Beauty. This one is, again, super satin, really hard pressed. But this one does leave just like a really soft blue sheen on the skin. So because of that, like if you don't like sparkly things, then you might like these, even though they're harder to pick up. And then next to that is going to be Electro. And this one is a little bit more on the purple side. So if anything, I think it's more comparable to Moon Cruiser. Probably the same-ish. But really subtle, like compared to these other shades. Specifically, these two new ones from Oden's Eye. They're definitely more on the subtle side. Next up is Lucid from Bitter Lace Beauty. And that one definitely has that shine to it, but it's got a lot of smoothness to it as well. So it's not quite flaky and particly like this other Diamond Transformer shade, which I think I mentioned. And then this one is also more purpley. This one is Whimsical. So again, a bit more similar to these kinds of tones here versus the blues. And again, really smooth, really shiny. These just melt into the skin. This is my favorite highlighter formula, and it's really just because that's my preference. So I think somebody who might not want something really shiny might not like that, but they really look just so beautiful on the skin. And then swatching this half of the Majestic Marquee shade, and you can see this one is pretty, like a little bit chunky, but they're really soft flakes. They're not anything like the Kristen Leigh Cosmetics. This is the shade Shenanigans. So you can kind of see, I mean, they look similar, but trust me, they're not. They don't feel the same. The Diamond Transformers just feel really, really smooth. So that's what that one looks like. Really, really shiny. And then the Kristen Leigh, this one has more of a blue shade, and this one also needs to be really, like, make sure you really rub it in so that it smooths out. And I'm going to show you a close-up of all of these once I finish swatching. The last one is Lollipop Love. I'm just throwing this one in here, but I don't think that it's really similar because it has like a pastel-y base to it. So it has like the most color pigment out of all of these. Out of all the set of these, I really feel like it's not really comparable necessarily to any of these. So let's get some close-ups of these. We kind of went from shiny to a little bit more satin and then like ramping back up to shiny. So those are all the swatches of the iridescent, colorful types of highlighters and the different formulas that you can find from these different brands. I feel like for the most part, there's actually quite a bit of like uniqueness in terms of specifically what you're looking for. So formulation really plays a huge part for me in this. Like, I know what to reach for depending on the look I'm going for that day. So if that day I want a colorful highlighter, but I don't want something really shiny, I know what to opt for. Maybe the Game Beauty, some of the Kaleidos highlighters, depending on the shade, of course. And then now I have the Oden's Eye. If I want something really shiny, really almost sparkly, but still like wet looking and really just melt into the skin, I'm gonna go for the Bitter Lace Beauty. And I have options now from Oden's Eye as well. And I did face swatch all of the new Oden's Eye in my video on the collection, which I will be linking down in the description box. Again, if you're interested to see how they actually apply and how they look on the cheek, I don't really think that you can go wrong. Of course, something to consider is like how different are some of these blue shades going to look on your cheek. Same with some of the more golden shifty shades. Do you want something that you can really clearly see a shift in? Something that's more duochromatic, something that just has that sheen to it, that little punch when you turn your cheek and the light hits you just the right way? Or do you really want to like glow and be seen from space? So those are all the things to keep in mind, especially if you're shopping the new collection from Oden's Eye this Friday. Hope this video was helpful to you. Let me know in the comments below which of these formulas or which of the shades is your favorite from the ones that I swatched. I would love to hear your thoughts. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And if you're new to my channel, I would love it if you subscribe. There's so much indie makeup content uploading my channel and much more to come. You don't want to miss out. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.